fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God!
God, what?
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV for the next round of the Majors series. We're broadcasting the international region here, and it is our home race in a technical sense, the Landown 240. It's V8s at Oran Park. What more could you want? Been looking forward to this one for quite some time. We got 246 lap races coming up in the Ford Falcon and Holden Commodore V8 touring cars. To bring it to you all here live on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, and it's Bradley Wingard alongside me in the commentary box once again. Brad, my goodness, Oran Park. I can't get over this circuit. It always throws up a super exciting race. A shame that it's not around anymore, being demolished in the early 2010s, but it is preserved in perpetuity on the iRacing service.
Yeah, good evening, Reese. Oh, excuse me. And this is a track down southern New South Wales, just outside of Sydney, and like you said, what a fantastic track. So much elevation over such a short distance, and of course that iconic figure eight at the northern end of the circuit, and so much history at this track. Touring cars, super trucks, the motorcycle 6 hour. This is what is now at Oran Park, but of course the track map as well, the circuit that we're running today.
Yes, that track map is overlaid over where the track used to be, so if you ever visit the town of Oran Park, you'll have some idea of where the track was. The main straight is now a road, so very interesting bit of history there. 25th of January 2010 was the last day of the track's operation. The last time it hosted a top-level Australian touring car race was in 2008, and of course it is a figure of 8. We got a little bit of a rest down the front stretch, but you're turning pretty much all the time around this circuit, and it's only just over a minute in length, so goodness me, the drivers have got a lot to work on here tonight. And of course, the Majors series supports a charity and a foundation every single round, and this time we are promoting Deaf Australia. Deaf Australia is the deaf-led peak organisation representing the deaf and hard of hearing community in Australia and advocate on behalf of them. Amongst other things, they're campaigning for more Auslan interpreters at the Prime Minister's press conferences. So if you want to get involved and support Deaf Australia, just head to deafaustralia.org.au. Well,
yeah,
go on.
No, you go. It was a mute point. I was going to say it's definitely something that I will be getting behind because my wife is a primary school teacher and I'm getting into medical, so being able to support those services in our fields is something we're both very passionate about, and it's great to see the Majors getting behind that for this round.
Absolutely. That's certainly something that I would be happy to take a break for, Brad. But the race information here for the Majors series, 246 lap races, as I said. We got a pit stop for fuel in each. Now, we're not quite sure on fuel numbers for these cars, but we have been told that the pit window is rather small. So there's a few different options for the drivers here tonight. And of course, they get one spare car per race. And we're about to go into qualifying, 10 minutes in length, 4 laps the drivers get. And with a lap around here running somewhere in the vicinity of 1 minute and 4 seconds up at the front of the field, they will have plenty of time to complete all of their laps.
Yeah, they definitely can, and that run out of turn 12, Recaro corner, the last corner, is so crucial for a lap around here because that main straight is not a massive straight by most circuit standards, but it makes up a fair chunk of the lap, and you don't really brake until the exit of pit lane to get around the kink at turn 1 and then into turn 2. So that run down that main straight is very important. We know how good the draft is on these cars down that straight, and that really comes into play in this technical section over the figure 8 and then through turn 7, 8 and 9 in the middle of the lap are so important to get right, because otherwise you're out in the weeds or in the fence or up in the grandstand, which hopefully won't happen, but it's such a busy part of racetrack.
Indeed, riding on board, we see just how much work the drivers have to do here. This is Dwayne Burns, who we're taking a look at, currently bumped down to 6th in the practice session as Mitchell Bales went to 5th, and Dwayne trying to get into the pit entry there for Kinetic Avatar Racing. Very difficult pit entry here. Something the drivers are going to have to really watch out for is pit entry and pit exit in these races. The entry and the exit are pretty much on the racing line, so need to be very careful coming out of the final corner. If you're behind another car, maybe just try swinging out to the left a little, just in case they brake for the pit lane. And what a fantastic livery that is for the 209 of Brett Loxton. A little bit of a Holden Racing Team tribute on the front of the car, with the Team Jinx Shifters Commodore sporting a Zuvacorn in place of the Holden Lion. Very nice to see. And of course, this team at ANZ Motorsports often raced as part of the Henry James Racing affiliation with Zuva Racing banners. Zuva, as it is continuing as a company, but not as present in sim racing as it once was, but the Zuvacorn is still there on these cars. Really awesome to see. And you know, you look at the car from the front, I'd be hard pressed to tell that apart from a classic HRT livery.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, HRT were the last car to win at Oran Park in 2008 or 2009. I don't remember which the last year was. I think it was 8, but of course they were the last team to win here. So hopefully Brett Loxton trying to channel a little bit of that today to get him to the finish. But still got 2 minutes left of practice and then 10 minutes of qualifying and 46 laps of racing. So a long way to get there until we find out if he can fully realise that potential.
Well, Loxton is 3rd in the practice session, so he's definitely got what it takes to win here tonight. Daniel Stevens has run the fastest lap time so far in this session. My goodness, what a livery that is on that Falcon. The number 52 of Sam Harper, running a brilliant looking, it seems, Aboriginal art inspired livery on that car. I gotta say, there's been a few Aboriginal art liveries in Australian motorsports over the past few years, and I've loved all of them, Brad. That sort of style seems to lend itself really well to a nice looking race car.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's the simplicity, but the artistry of it is just, it looks good on a piece of canvas, but then you put it on a race car, real or pretend, and it just comes alive and adds a whole new dimension to what we think of as generic liveries for, like, consistent liveries is probably a better word for some of these teams, and it absolutely stands out and looks incredible.
Well, the 386 here of Joshua Thomas for the Kinetic Avatar squad. They got a few different drivers here tonight. J.M. Thomas, the sportsman champion of last season in the international region. So he's got a bit of form to back up here as well. He's just inside the top 10 in the times in practice too. So let's see if he can hold on for a decent result here tonight in either of our 46 lap races. Checkered flag flies in the practice session. and we'll get ready to go into the 10-minute qualifying. And this is going to be quite frantic. The drivers will likely want to get out there as soon as they can. It's not open qualifying, it is closed qualifying. So every driver is going to be out there on their own, and they got to get it done within 4 laps to set their time for the grid. And no surprise to see that Daniel Stevens is one of the first drivers out. Already a slight lock-up in turn 1, but that's okay. He'll still be able to carry on from that. But he's got a P1 in practice to back up, so the pressure is on the number 3.
Yeah, we know how quick Dan Stevens can be in most cars that he gets into, so this is pretty good territory for him. Like you said, fastest in practice is a good start to the night, but backing that up in qualifying, especially around a track like this where we know it's so difficult to pass around, is going to be very important for him. And thankfully for these guys, very quick outlap. Like we said, 1:05-ish in practice, give or take a second depending on skill level. So we're already coming out of Recaro corner now to set up that first flying lap, and we have 4 laps in quali, but I think there might only be 2, because by the time you cross the line at the end of your first lap, a lot of these guys might go back in for tyres. But this run through turn 1 is so bumpy, you can see the car move around, and then straight on the anchors for turn 2, and gets a little bit too much of that inside curve, but a clean exit otherwise down towards turn 3.
Yeah, very clean indeed. Let's see if he holds on through here. Very difficult corner, that third turn. Got to narrow up a little on the exit, and then you have to negotiate the bumps and the dips and the rises up across the bridge here, crossing over the circuit. Try and maintain as much speed as you can through this right, and then into this beautiful S-bend. Lovely elevation change through here. Got to be careful of the curve on the outside. Don't go too wide. Good job there from Daniel Stevens not to. And the dog leg, the most iconic part of the circuit, just about flat out. And it goes into the very heavy braking zone into the final corner, braking uphill. So there's quite a short braking distance there. Let's see what time Daniel Stevens sets. 1:04.833. That is an excellent time there for Daniel Stevens. He ran 0.6 faster in the practice session, so maybe on the second lap he will be a little faster. But so far, with Mitchell Bales completing a lap, Shane Bowen as well, 1:05. That's the top 5 at the moment. Stevens, Loxton, Bowen, Mitchell Bales and Jaden Hopp. Sam Harper going into 4th place. Joshua Thomas's first time puts him into 8th. Max Riley for Dark Tempest Motorsports jumping up into the top 10. Dwayne Burns to 4th, Jonathan Ben to 8th. The time's absolutely streaming in right now. What can Thomas Hinz do?
Yeah, this is going to be the big lap from Hinz, because Stevens and Loxton are close, and this is going to be very close as well. That's a 1:04.4, so he goes fastest by 0.4. I wasn't really expecting him to go that quick, but that was an absolutely flying lap from Hinz, so it's going to be very interesting to see how Stevens and Loxton can respond to that.
Indeed. Thomas Hinz running faster than he did in practice. That's a really good sign. Jaden Hopp, meanwhile, for Boysenberry Motorsport, coming to the end of his second flying lap. 1:05.6 is the time for him to beat. Let's see if he can break into the low 1:05s, maybe even a 1:04. 1:05.2 for Jaden Hopp, up to 4th place thanks to that. Great job there.
Yeah, it was a very good lap, and because of how short this circuit is, that second lap might be the way to go. Get the tyres really up to temperature. Dan Stevens just messed up his second flying lap, so he's back in the pits. Only one more attempt for him. Thomas Hinz out on track at the moment, sitting on pole coming through turns 4 and 5 now, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. Peter Jones just sets his, I think that's his first time of the race, so 1:07.8 for him. So Robert Northway on screen now, who had a very good running at Daytona last round until a bit of misfortune late in the race, so it'll be interesting to see how he can bounce back this week as he comes into Recaro corner to finish his first lap. This run out is so difficult as the car gets light over the crest, having to put all that power down right out to the pit wall. 1:05.3 for Robert Northway will put him in 6th position.
Good job there with still half of the session left to go. Daniel Stevens is back out on track, and Thomas Hin's still out there as well, trying to get some extra time in. Brett Loxton is looking quick here. 104.496. That's Daniel Stevens down to third now. Good stuff there from Brett Loxton. I was going to note earlier that the times that Stevens and Loxton were on were very close, so there was potential for a big change there, and it looks like there is. Loxton only shadowing Hinsey by less than 200ths of a second. Here's another one of the Dark Tempest Motorsports cars, Darren Robb. Coming down into the final corner now. Darren is down in 16th at the moment. 107.298 is the time that he set. I think a couple of mistakes involved in that. Let's see if he can break into the 106s. He can indeed. That gives him another spot there over his teammate Max Riley. Shane Bowen then in the number 7. He's 8th as things stand. Improvement? Yes, by 0.2, but unfortunately that's not going to be enough to get him further up the grid. Thomas Hins, it seems, has just gone faster. 104.386 there for Hinsey. Just a little bit faster, making it harder for Brett Loxton to really respond. And a 104.4 there for his final lap. That is very close, I have to say. What can Daniel Stevens do? Well, he improved to a 104.742. But it's not going to be enough to overcome Loxton and Hins at the front of the field. The majority of drivers have set times. We've only got Dean Moll and Michael Berta yet to make their way onto the circuit. Actually, Dean Moll, it seems, has just started his first lap, as that's a mistake for Robert Northway, straight into the wall, out of the dogleg. He is not going to be able to improve on 6th.
No, and that is something that we'll probably see more than once tonight. That second part of the dogleg is so easy to catch you out as the road drops away from you. So that outside wall coming up to turn 12 is always there to greet you if you get it wrong. And it's so bumpy as well, and such a finite window. Even if you can monster those curves over the top, it catches you out so easily if you get it wrong. Jonathan Ben made it through all right though, and gets a 105.6 for his troubles, so he's currently in 11th place. And not a bad qualifying run for him.
Not bad at all. And no penalty for going into the gravel trap at turn 1 this time. I think that was his final lap there. Dean Moll about to finish his first flying lap here for Kinetic Avatar in the number 31. Let's see what he can do. His opening volley is 106.562. Good stuff there from Dean, straight up to 14th place, and it's only up from here. Let's see what Dean can do in the final 2 minutes of the session, as Jaden Hopp then not able to improve on his 4th place in the session at the moment. So all eyes are going to be on Dean Moll. Michael Berta will not make it out to make a couple of laps here in the qualifying session.
Yeah, Dean Moll had a massive lock-up through turn 3, which is probably going to hinder his lap this time around, but he'll soldier on anyway. Minute 40 left in qualifying, up towards turn 7 and 8 now. Probably the best part of the circuit from turn 7 through to turn 11. Up through turn 9 now is pretty clean. Very cautious on exit though. Dogleg will make or break his lap, I think. I think he's consolidating his losses. He lifted a bit over the crest, so we'll see if he continues this lap, but I think he's calling it there.
And he was on the brakes coming out of the dog leg. Let's see if, well, he actually does improve there. 106.6. No, actually he doesn't, unfortunately. My apologies. And it looks like he has called his session there. There was potential there for him to complete one more lap before the session ended, but it seems that's the way it's going to stack up. Jaden Hopp is still out on the circuit. He's still trying to complete laps, but he's on his 5th lap, so this is the way they're going to line up then. Thomas Hins takes pole position for the first race of the Landown 240. Brett Loxton will share the first row with him. It's Daniel Stevens and Jaden Hopp on the 2nd row. Then J.M. Thomas and Robert Northway round out the top 6. 7th and 8th are Mitchell Bales and Shane Bowen. Bowen's teammate Dwayne Burns will start out of 9th place. And then we've got Sam Harper rounding out the top 10, Jonathan Bean and Gavin Barber 11th and 12th.
13th and 14th is Greg Tilson and Dean Mole. Mark Newton and Dan Robb round out 15th and 16th. Max Riley and Peter Jones is 17th and 18th before I get ahead of myself. 19th and 20th is... Michael Berta is 19th. No 20th.
Right, so we have a field of 19 cars here tonight, and it might very well be 18 if Michael Berta elects not to take to the grid. We'll see what happens there for the 888. We've still got plenty of time for the drivers to get onto the grid here. Looking at the way they stack up on the grid, it's not exactly two straight lines coming down to the actual starting grid. There's a little bit of variation side to side with how the cars start, so there's potential there for extra moves to be made. Reminder of the format then. We got 46 laps, as we've said, and 1 pit stop for fuel. How much fuel? We're not quite sure, but it's certainly going to be interesting, and we'd expect that the drivers would take tyres in that pit stop as well, because these things will absolutely burn through the rubber over a 46-lap race distance at Oran Park Raceway.
Yeah, they absolutely will, and we'll get ready for the green shortly, but you can see the history in Oran Park with those stagnated grids rather than the nice symmetrical ones we see in modern series, which really brings it back.
Revs rise, though, and we are getting ready to go here. The Majors Landown 240 in the international region is go, and it's not a great start from Hins, but a really good start from Daniel Stevens, and also from the 386 of J.M. Thomas, getting up the inside of our pole sitter coming into the first turn. Jaden Hopp goes off into the gravel, and oh dear, he's not able to get it hooked up. He's going to lose some more spots, but to the lead goes Brett Loxton. Daniel Stevens in second. Thomas Hins tries to take second place back. Stevens gives him room, and there we go. Number 62 back into P2 as Jaden Hopp tries to defend from Shane Bowen. He's up the inside of him there for positions 6 and 7. But Shane is making it very difficult for him. My goodness, still going side by side in the background there. And Jaden's going to have to yield. Great stuff there from Shane Bowen on the first lap. Jaden Hopp a little bit rattled, it seems, but we're almost at the end of the first lap already. It is Brett Loxton who leads the way from Thomas Hins and Daniel Stevens. But a great start from J.M. Thomas. He is up into 4th. There we go. Lap 1 complete, and we've had no huge incidents so far.
Yeah, that was a very good save by Jaden Hopp. You know, majority of times we see a driver go off at the Exeter turn 1, and that's the race done. So very well done for him to get A, back on the track, and B, not collect anyone else either. But now he's getting absolutely hounded by Sam Harper behind, trying to recover his race a little bit. Still got plenty of racing to go, but at the same time, missing your blink this race, that's how quickly the laps are going to turn by. But very clean start, which is not usually what we see at Oran Park.
Yeah, not usually. Well, Sam Harper here for the Energy team, winner of the first 2 rounds, actually. He won the GT class at Watkins Glen and took a surprise win in the Daytona 500. So he has got great momentum, has Harper, trying to work his way back up here. These aren't the kinds of cars that Harper usually races, and you see this pack behind him really raring to go. Jonathan Bean and Mark Newton, also Mitchell Bales, all for Middle Finger Racing, which is one of the teams with the greatest presence here in the major series. But have a look at Robert Northway trying his best to find his way back forward. Remember, he started 6th, he's fallen to 12th on the first lap. It didn't go very well for the number 46.
Yeah, it can change so quickly around here. I did miss that, unfortunately, not quite sure what happened, but we've been broadcasting races with Robert Northway in them for quite a while now, especially the major series being probably the biggest one, and we know how patient he can be, and he's ever the opportunist. Get a replay of Northway up right now thanks to VRS, and this is a start, and I think it happens as soon as he starts, and yeah, just absolutely bogs down the rear tires, and that's going to do it. That's 5 spots in 400 meters as easy as you like and make that 6 just at the end of it as well.
Wow, goodness, it was a very chaotic first lap there, trying to squeeze his way through turn 1. Jaden Hopp, that was the puff of smoke that you would have seen there on the outside of turn 2. Well, it looks like Northway is starting to make his way forward, side by side here with Mitchell Bales on the way into turn 1. He'll have the inside line, and maybe Bales will try and yield to him. Yeah, he's going to have to. Northway up the inside, but he's gone a bit deep in turn 2. Well, looks like he's managed to hold on to the momentum, but will Bales get him back here at turn 3? Certainly will, up the inside. And Oran Park's one of those circuits where it's very difficult to run side by side most of the time. So Northway struggling a little bit, but great momentum through the turn. Unfortunately, he's not able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, this is why we love Oran Park. If you make a move on someone or someone makes a move on you, most of the corners will come back to you in some sense, because a lot of them go right and then left, or left and then right. So if you're on the outside, you're suddenly up the inside, and it means your race isn't done. But like you said, very difficult to run side by side, especially through corners like the dogleg that we were just watching there. But I'm sure it'll be a matter of time until Northway's right on the tail of Mitchell Bales again, and 0.2 of a second heading down the main straight is a pretty good space to be.
A pretty good space is certainly the case for Brett Loxton. He now leads by 1.5 seconds over Thomas Hinz, and he's wasted no time trying to extend that gap here out at the front of the field. Hinzy just trying to get into a rhythm. Stevens in tow. The top 3 have broken away from the likes of J.M. Thomas, Dwayne Burns, and Shane Bowen, that kinetic avatar trio. But Sam Harper still trying to chase down the 4th place starter, Jaden Hopp, who's fallen down to 7th thanks to getting off into the gravel between turns 1 and 2. And I gotta say, it's a pretty good split of Fords versus Holdens in this field. We've noticed in quite a few of the Australian Touring Car Leagues we've broadcast in the past, there's usually been a clear preference for one car over the other, and that's not for from a physics standpoint, because these cars are the same underneath. It's just the body shell that's different. They perform exactly the same in the sim, but it seems that quite an even amount of drivers have gone for Falcons versus Commodores. Northway here in one of the Commodores, still trying to get past Mitchell Bales, but seems that that little bit of hard racing he had might have overheated his tyres a little bit. He's going to have to back off and try and negotiate another move later.
Yeah, and at this point in time, I think Northway's best bet, as we see, I don't know who that was, Mark Newton having a massive lockup. Oh, that's someone else as well.
That's Craig Tilson.
Craig Tilson, yeah. Having a bit of a moment through turn 3, decided to take the go-kart track at the exit of turn 3 instead of the actual racing circuit. But there was a lock-up for Mark Newton coming through turn 4 as well, and as this race progresses, I think that's going to become more and more prominent. So this is the replay now, and just gets a bit of a... gets on the gas a bit too early out of turn 3, I think, yeah, and just goes up the go-kart pits instead.
Alright, so no contact there. It was... who was it? I think it was Max Riley who was making the move on him there, and managed to get it done cleanly. So, back to the battle here. Robert Northway trying to work his way forward past the MFR duo of Newton and Bales for the last position in the top 10. Northway's starting to turn up the pace again, and Bales is going to have to start looking over his shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely will. He knows that he has the advantage at the moment just being in front at a circuit like this, but if Northway can look after his tyres as we come up towards that pit stop, that's going to be really difficult for Bales to counter that if he's trying to defend Northway with everything that he has. And it just becomes a bit of a patience game where only 8 laps in, but we all know how quickly these tyres can lose their peak grip. So being able to maintain your pace and save some tyre through the mid part of the stint is going to be absolutely crucial.
And how long is that stint going to be? Well, logic would dictate as Northway goes very deep into turn 2. He's having a bit of trouble hooking up the braking zone between those corners. You're braking and turning at the same time in these cars through there. It's very hard to get it slowed down cleanly, so that's another setback for Robert Northway in his attempts to get further forward, and another lockup, which Gavin Barber got a big whiff of smoke off. Goodness me. Very tight battling here in the midfield, just outside the top 10.
Yeah, there's a few battles throughout the field. Of course, this one that we're watching right now for 10th back to 13th is becoming ever more interesting. The battle for 4th down to 9th. Oh no, Mark Newton's absolutely lost it through Ricciardo corner. Got very loose over the second part of the dogleg and just slid it up the grass. Yeah, that's a really awkward place to be. Only a few cars left to come through and just make it through, just enough space. But thankfully for Mark Newton, he does have that spare car to use, but I don't think he would have wanted to take it. He's not going to take it, never mind.
Right, so he'll go around for a couple of laps, just see how the car handles, and if it's not to his liking, then he'll go into the pits, and yeah, there we go. Just getting onto the grass, coming out of the dogleg, and you try and apply the brakes on the grass, you are just going to spin around. And Max Riley saw that happening and thought, you know what, maybe the outside is the best line to go for in that case. Yeah, well, let's see what Mark Newton can do from this point. He might be forced into an early pit stop at this stage, and what I was going to say about the pit stops is logic dictates the drivers will split it purely in half. We might see a lot of drivers deciding to pit around lap 23, lap 24 as, oh goodness me, J.M. Thomas, I think he just let Dwayne Burns by coming into turn 1.
I think so. I'm wondering if this is maybe a fuel/tyre saving strategy. The chances of getting slowdowns around here are nearly zero, so I don't think it would have been a let-off for a slowdown. So I don't know if he's running to a fuel number now, or because he's got his teammates in behind him as well. Oh, very big wiggle from said teammate as we go up the hill. But I'm not sure. That was very strange.
We're hearing from our director, Jay Kennedy, that J.M. Thomas might have accidentally hit the pit limiter button. So we'll see it on the replay here. Let's check out. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, the flashing light on the rear boot lid, that designates that the pit limiter is on. So that was just a straight up error from J.M. Thomas, which is a bit of a shame, but fortunately it hasn't compromised him too much, nor anyone else. So Dwayne Burns now leads that kinetic avatar charge in 4th.
Of all the places to do it, though, you definitely picked the best place, because you wouldn't want to do that through turn 7 or 8 where everyone's running, within 0.2 of a second through a very twisty part of this track. So probably better to do it into turn 1 than anywhere else, but I'm glad I'm not the only one that's accidentally hit the pit limiter going down pit straight when I'm not in the pits, so that makes me feel slightly better, but I'm sure Josh Thomas feels a little bit embarrassed at the same time.
Yeah. Oh well. Fact of the matter is, he's still going and still in a top 5 position. Meanwhile, Jaden Hopp, one of the 2 Americans in this session tonight, the other being Dean Moll, still has a front row seat to that kinetic avatar trio. It looks like he's starting to fall off the back of them just a little bit. I'm checking their lap times, and, well, 106.086. 106.508, sorry, for Jaden Hopp. And the 2 cars in front of him were faster. Dwayne Burns doing a 106.663. So now we enter the stage of the race where drivers will be starting to think about their pit strategy. Now, would you want to pit this early? I don't know what benefit it would have if you decided to pit this early in the race just to take straight up service. And either way, we're still not quite sure what the fuel numbers are.
Yeah, that's a big thing because yes, you could pit for tires now if you are Jaden Hop in middle of this pack to try and get some clean air and get that tire advantage for a lap or two and then try and hold station when the front end of this pack pits. But A, this is Oran Park, clean air doesn't exist, and B, that fuel number, we have no idea. These cars will do you, I don't know. Oh, that's the 89. That is Darren Robb off at turn 10 and 11.
Okay. Just before the dog leg, it seems. What on earth happened to him there for the Dark Tempest number 89? Check out a replay thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School. So, coming through this corner, yeah, the rear end kicked out and around he went. A few bumps in the racetrack here on corner exit that can definitely unsettle you. It seems like Rob just got on the throttle a little too hard. So he now runs in 17th. 18th place, Mark Newton has decided to come into the pits and get that spare car, I would imagine.
Yeah, if you're going to pit early, if fuel can make it, which I assume from this point it probably could, as an absolute guess with no information behind that whatsoever, you might as well take the new car, give you a bit of pace, because his lap times after that incident they've not been awful, so it hasn't affected him too much, but if you're going to come in and get service, you might as well get a new car as well if it's there.
Might as well indeed. Well, this battle with Thomas and Bowen seems that JM Thomas has started to pick up the pace again a little bit, running a 106.831 on the last lap. There was a 107.079 for Shane Bowen. That's brought Jaden Hop back into it. He ran 4 tenths faster than Mr. Bowen. So it's given him a little bit of extra breathing room, Jaden Hop, in his battle with Sam Harper just behind. And Harper's continued to hold on to that position in the top 8. Remember, he started in 10th. He's taken advantage of a couple of troubles for other drivers further up the field. So I think, considering looking at this onboard, how smooth he's being, Sam Harper, he has a pretty good chance here of seeing it through to the end. And really, in a car and track combo that's unfamiliar to a driver like Sam, I think just survival is the name of the game here. Just trying your best to hold your position and stay out of trouble.
And of course, you don't have to win every single race to win the championship. If you're in an unfamiliar car at an unfamiliar track and you can still get a half-decent result, but then you get to your cars and tracks where you are strong and you get a great result, then all of those little average results really start to pay off. And like you said, winner at Daytona to most of our shock, and class winner at Watkins Glen, and that's what we were talking about. That pit entry is very slow and very much on the racing line, and that was very close to an incident.
Well, Jaden Hop is the first of our drivers here, apart from Mark Newton, to take an early pit stop here. Still in the first third of this race. We'll get a replay of this. Now, watch Sam Harper's reaction to this. Hop gets on the brakes. Harper's right behind him. Oh dear. Okay, better swerve to the left. And if Harper was a little bit closer, then that might have been disaster for both cars. Jaden, though, completes his stop. 7.2 seconds stopped in the box. So a nice quick stop there for Jaden. He should be fueled to the end now, but will he be able to make those tyres last?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question, because 46 laps around here isn't too long, but there are a lot of direction changes and a lot of speed changes through the lap. And he has 3 seconds of clean air to Craig Tilson in 15th and 14th, so bit of room to work with. So he's really going to have to make the first part of this stint work. Otherwise, Sam Harper is just going to absolutely leapfrog him, and Sam Harper sitting behind Shane Bowen and Josh Thomas are in pretty good company, I would say.
I'd say so, but Harper did make a little error into turn 2. I noticed a slight lock-up, so he's lost a little bit of time. Just for everyone's information, in these cars, fuel and tyres are done together. So as long as you're able to get the tyre stop done, your fuel should be done as well, with the small amount required to complete this race.
Yeah, it definitely helps with the speed of these pit stops as well, because you can get an understanding through that of who's put in roughly what amount of fuel. So Mark Newton had a 47-second stop, and Jaden Hopp had a 38-second stop, including lane transition. So excluding any damage that Newton would have received, that was a big swing in terms of pit stop time.
In comes Robert Northway, meanwhile. Another one of the drivers looking to get into the pits early and do some laps on fresh tyres in clear air. Let's see if this works out then for the Kiwi and the 446. Now, we have a pit stop time to compare here with Jaden Hopp's 7 seconds stopped in the box. There goes Jaden past the pit entry. You'll see Northway just about here. No, you won't, because the concrete blocks all view of other cars. But Hopp will move ahead of Northway. As a result of that, not much surprise there. Hopp was ahead of Northway before anyone pitted. And Northway is out. It's a longer pit stop for the Kiwi. 10.8 seconds. Now, I remember actually talking to multiple V8 Scops and iRacing V8 Series champion Madison Down. The tyres, at least in the newer cars, the Mustang and the ZB Commodore, tyres will take around 9 seconds to change. So I'm starting to wonder if Jaden Hopp might not have taken tyres. I won't say that's a certainty, but it's a possibility.
Is that all 4 tyres though, or
Yeah.
so maybe Hopp's just taking rears because that's where all the power is? But then, like we've said, this is a very twisty track, especially from who is that? Mark
Tilson.
Newton, I think, is off. No, no, my overlay is messing up. Never mind. I thought he was off at turn 2.
Well, Jaden Hopp's having a tough time finding his way past Craig Tilson, and apparently you're right, Brad. Something did happen to Mark Newton, and he is down in the lane at the moment. What on earth happened to him here? Was it a mistake at turn 1? Oh no, just clobbering the outside pit wall. What on earth went on there? And then he caught the gravel coming into turn 2, and he's decided to escape off the track, it seems. That is a bizarre incident there. Maybe a slight hardware failure for Mark Newton, or perhaps damaging his car by getting into the pit wall on the way into turns 1 and 2. Very bizarre.
Very bizarre indeed. I saw it on my overlay, and then I saw him in the pits. I was like, oh no, never mind. My overlays are just playing silly buggers, but apparently not. That's definitely one of the stranger incidents I've seen. I'm wondering if he was maybe distracted and just leant on the wheel a weird way. But like you were saying before that, Jaden Hopp is having a real tough time trying to get by Craig Tilson here, and it's absolutely flipped his strategy on his head.
Tilson's doing quite well. And hearing there were problems for Thomas Hens in second place, losing a spot to a lapped car. And that is Robert Northway, who obviously has fresh tyres, and maybe a slight bit of contact between them on the way into turn 3. Northway, I think, intent on trying to make up as much time as possible on those fresh tyres, doesn't care about the battle for the lead.
Yeah, and I can definitely understand that. He's still in front of Hinsey, so I don't think he's holding him up too much. Hinsey's last lap was a 107.2. Roberts was a 106.4, so that's a pretty significant difference in lap speed. And that's just new tyres versus old. We know how much the degradation is on these cars, and Hinsey going for the lane now and just narrowly avoids both walls inside and outside, so he's going to try and get some clean air as well. 38 seconds seems to be the stop time, so that I reckon will put him down around Dean Mole or Max Riley in 11th or 12th spots. So Dean Mole coming through the dogleg now, so it'll be interesting to see where Hinsey can come out, and if he can come out in clean air, this might help him get back up towards Brett Loxton at the end of the race.
See if the undercut works for Hinsey, and he's picked a good time to pit, just about half race distance. There he goes out of the lane, and his stop time was 9.5 seconds on my timing anyway, 9.1 on the official timing on your screen. So that works out with 4 tyres. I might have to clarify at some point whether or not Jaden Hopp has actually taken all 4 tyres. I don't know if the pit stop time is different in these older cars. Oh, Hinsey just avoiding getting wiped out there. Dean Mole was trying his best to hold on behind him, but making a little mistake coming across the bridge. Very well timed for Hinsey to avoid that, as we have 2 more takers in the pits. Sam Harper and Mitchell Bales coming in from 7th and 8th on track. Let's see where they come out, as, oh my goodness, Dean is having a tough time pulling that car up. So we'll get it on board here with him. Thomas Hins will make the move on the inside, but Mole just catches the grass on the outside, just avoiding that tyre bundle. Very lucky for the American.
Yeah, a lot of drivers getting very lucky with their runs off track in this race. Not so much in practice, but in the race they have been. And that was a bit of overspeed with the new tyre from Hinsey, I think, catching Dean Mole out, and Dean Mole trying to give as much space as possible, and unfortunately became his undoing. But like you said, very close. And Dan Stevens in the pits now for his scheduled stop. Brett Loxton still out on track though. He's turning really good lap times, 105.6 last time out. So Hinsey's lap time in clean air is going to be absolutely crucial to see how this strategy is going to swing, if it swings at all.
Let's see what Hinsey's first flying lap is then. 104.9. My goodness, that is the second fastest lap time of the race. Fantastic stuff there from Thomas Hins. And Brett Loxton will probably have noticed that and will be thinking, goodness me, I have to get in and get my tyres done. But he's going to wait a couple more laps for it. Seems that he's confident in the long run for this car, as Max Riley jumps on into the pits, falling down to 13th, likely down to 14th when Robert Northway gets past him. Yes, indeed. So, the deal in the midfield among the drivers that have pitted, Robert Northway has not been able to get much closer to Jaden Hopp. Remember, he did have a slower pit stop time by about 4 seconds, but he's only 2 seconds behind him now. So could be a potential position change between Hopp and Northway there, as we ride on board with Shane Bowen chasing down Joshua Thomas. Another taker on the pits, Gavin Barber from 7th place.
Yeah, I've seen about half the field pit now. We only have the top 5, Loxton, Burns, Thomas Bowen, and Ben, Dean Mole, and Craig Tilson are the 7 cars who are yet to pit. See how long that lasts, but the gap between Loxton and Hins is about 43 seconds, which is pretty good running for Loxton, giving pit stops of taking about 40 seconds. So he still has that gap, plus by the time he does come out, he's going to have fresh rubber and he's going to absolutely be able to blitz Hins. Even if they are close, he's just going to have a massive tyre advantage. So I think Loxton is watching that timing board very closely, but he's not in panic stations just yet.
Not just yet. as Jonathan Bean jumps on into the lane. I am checking out that pit stop for Jaden Hopp right now, and it looks to me like he only took front tyres at his stop. That's an interesting decision.
That is a very interesting decision. Loxton is in the lane now. I think everyone just saw that light up on their screen, so this is going to be very close, but that is a very kind of the opposite of what most people would think to do in these sort of cars. Like, yes, you need to be able to turn, but how else are you going to put down 650 horsepower with no downforce at a truck like this? So that's a very, very interesting call, but he is still holding station over Robert Northway, so I'm not going to judge the strategy too harshly just yet, but definitely an interesting call.
Interesting call indeed. Brett Loxton makes his way out of the pit lane, and crucially, he is still quite a ways ahead of Thomas Hinz, but he has come out just behind Peter Jones, so Jones is going to let him by without much fuss. So the gap between Loxton and Hinz is around 4 seconds. Looks like Brett Loxton has played this very nicely, and of course, Hinz would have been compromised a little with him having to navigate Dean Moll and be navigated by Robert Northway earlier in the stint. That has all added up to cost Hinzy a shot at the race win for the time being. Of course, we still have 20 laps to go, and anything can happen. Loxton may very well make a mistake and bring Hinzy back into the fight.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and even the fact that we have 66 laps of racing to go in total, so plenty of time for Hinzy to make a move and get at least a win if it doesn't come in this one, because in 19 laps time we hit the reset, a refresh, and go again for another 46 laps. So if Hinzy can get a better start than he did in this race, then he can absolutely take it to Loxton in the next race. But like you said, Loxton currently sits in 4th. He is, of course, net lead overall, but Shane Bowen, Josh Thomas, and Dwayne Burns in front of him aren't necessarily going to give up just because he's net leader. On track, he's still 4th position, and they'll fight that to the death.
That they will. Well, Loxton still making his way through on lapped cars here. There's Dean Moll up ahead of him, I believe, who just came out of the pits a little bit earlier than Loxton did. And not going to let him by in the final corner, but on the exit, definitely. And there we go. Race leader back past that car, and that is Shane Bowen, actually, who is in 4th place. That was 4 position. My apologies, everyone. I'm obviously not on top form today in terms of keeping track of what's going on out on track, but that was a pass 4 position, and Loxton is going to get JM Thomas as well. He's making his way through the cars that haven't pitted yet. Burns, Thomas, and Bowen all have yet to come in and get those fresh tyres on their cars. But you can really see what the difference is in pace between new tyres and old ones.
That's exactly the point I was going to make, and going for a move into turn 7 is not really the best place to do it, but when you've got a tyre advantage as severe as Loxton is, you'll probably have a send. But you could see the drive out of the final corner last lap and absolutely pushing Thomas through the dogleg now, and you'll see it again here out of this slow-ish corner, and never mind that, just being able to stop the car is one thing as well, but then the acceleration out of it, and Thomas decides to take his pit stop now. Bowen continues, and Dwayne Burns, nearly 7 seconds up the road, decides the same thing. So now be very interesting to see what pace Loxton has with a very low fuel car and relatively fresh tyres. They're 3 laps old, got 6 seconds of fresh air, so this is really going to show his pace now.
Meanwhile, this battle for 9th, Jaden Hopp in the lead in 9th place, only having taken front tyres at his pit stop, and you can see that that is costing him now. because Robert Northway is rounding him up lap by lap. Also, Jonathan Bean in the 019 just behind. He's on the freshest tyres in this pack. And they just had J.M. Thomas come out of the pits up ahead of them. Oh, no. And it's all gone wrong for J.M. Thomas coming out of the pit lane. Oh, no! And it looks like Hop and Northway have made contact. My goodness. Hop in the gravel trap. Dearie me. What on earth? Looks like Robert Northway caught the grass in the braking zone. He's managed to continue and is still defending from Jonathan Bean. But, goodness gracious me. Oh, Robert Northway's really getting the elbows out here.
Yeah, I missed that one. Hopefully we'll get a replay soon. I was going to make a joke that I did say you can't really get many slowdowns around here, but Josh Thomas showing us one of the ways that you can get a slowdown around here by cutting the apex of turn 2 through the grass. But that was a very strange incident.
Oh,
yeah,
it's
it's
the transition from the pit lane onto the racetrack that got him. And there's the incident with Northway and Hop.
Just a bit of a lock brake. Yeah. Not really much you can do when there's a car in the way, but I'm sure that Jaden Hop is not going to be happy about that at all. No reasoning from Northway is really going to justify that incident in Hop's mind. And Hop, after all of his hard work to work back up through the field, is now down in 12th, and he's nearly a minute behind the leader. So Loxton and Burns is closing in to lap him as well. So absolute nightmare of a race for Jaden Hop.
Yeah, well, fortunately for Jaden, he will have another 46-lap race shortly after this to try and consolidate a good finish. But I can already see, watching him on my end as we check out Dwayne Burns on the broadcast, Jaden is struggling to get the power down. It's very difficult to try and power down on those worn tyres. Well, another little lull in the action as Dwayne Burns and Shane Bowen still have yet to make their way into the lane. They are going super long as, oh dear, that's one of the MFR cars out on the grass. It's Mark Newton, who we've already seen suffer greatly in this race with that incident towards the end of the lap some time ago. He's going to lose even more time there. He is the last car running 5 laps down on our race leader.
Yeah, you can really, I just flick back to Jaden Hop for a second. You can hear the car. He's just wheeling it with all of his might to try and get the power down in the back of that. He's so ginger on the throttle, and it's a very strange decision that I'm assuming he probably won't make the same decision next race, but Northway and Ben are absolutely putting on a show. I think this is our closest battle on track at the moment. Looking at my info, I think it is, and scraps for last top 10, and Craig Tilson gets well out of the way very quickly coming down the main straight, and 14 laps to go. These guys are leaving nothing in the tank.
Nothing at all. It's a good draft for Jonathan Bean down the front stretch, and he gains just a little on Northway in the braking zone. This is the only battle on track under a second, but we might see another one eventuate soon because Brett Loxton, trying to make his way back towards the front of the field, has just made his way past the lapped car of Dean Moll coming into turn 1, and now there's only about a second between himself and Dwayne Burns up at the front of the field. There is Loxton, and Burns will be in the frame right there, and you see the amount of time that Loxton is gaining. It's quite substantial.
Yeah, it's 33 lap old tyres versus 7 is an absolutely huge difference when you're turning as much as you are here, and you can just see how much more speed he carries through turn 6 over the bridge, and you'll see it again through turn 7 and turn 8. And if Burns doesn't come into the pits, I reckon Loxton might have to drive out of the last corner alone to get in before turn 1 and turn 2. And with 13 laps to go, I think now is probably too late to pit, but never mind, we'll see the move before turn 1.
And it doesn't work out.
Has a very late dive into the hairpin.
And Dwayne Burns still staying out on the circuit. Goodness me. I'm wondering what the deal is here. Dwayne Burns? I haven't seen anyone go this long on a set of tyres.
Well, as far as we know, this is a progressive race, so progressive grid race. The way you finish this race is where you start, and we'll see Loxton finally make that move up the inside of Burns at turn 3 and gets it done very easily. So a pit stop at the moment would put him down even around J.M. Thomas in 8th place, so that's not a bad spot for him to be, one spot up from where he started this race. So maybe not an awful strategy to go by, but you'll think if you're managing to run this long, why not stop even 10 laps ago and just use the pace of those tyres to carry you through to the end? But who knows?
Who knows indeed. We don't have an eye in to the drivers' minds. We cannot know for sure what exactly they've got planned. But we'll see what Dwayne Burns decides to do. He's still out there now in 2nd place. Shane Bowen following him through as well. Burns and Bowen have been teammates for many years now, formerly of Avatar Auto Racing and then joining up with the Kinetic team for 2022. It certainly helped them out having that bigger team to work with, but it seems that old alliances are still very much active, with Burns and Bowen running in tandem, deciding to pit incredibly late.
Yeah, it's that beauty of strength in numbers with...
Oh, we've heard that Jaden Hopp has blown a tyre, and this is not surprising at all. Not taking rear tyres in the pit stop. That would certainly work out. Is it in turn 1? Yeah, there we go. Oh no, actually he's blown the engine. Oh dear. Okay, so a mistimed blip on the downshift. These cars have a sequential dog box which requires you to blip the throttle when you shift down. And it's very easy to use engine braking in the braking zones in this car, but as Jaden Hopp finds out, a little bit too much can absolutely destroy your engine. So that's going to be a retirement for Jaden Hopp from this race. And yeah, an already difficult race getting even worse there for the 81.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive uphill battle for him in race 2 tonight. Hopefully he does decide to return and doesn't throw in the towel just because of that, because we'd hate to see him miss out. He was driving quite well, especially coming back after that lap 1 excursion into the gravel, and Ben and Northway are still going at it, and I honestly couldn't pick a winner for this battle because both of them have the skill and the pace to win this fight. It's just when and if Ben goes for the move, because if he does and he messes it up, then they're both going to just tumble down the order. So he might be thinking long game here, because he is up 1 position. Robert Northway's down 3, so maybe he's just consolidating his positions inside the top 10 and can try and build on that next race. But I don't know, it's inside the mind of the driver at the moment, and I am not sure, because there's also lap traffic to take involved as well, which is courteously gotten out of the way very early before the dog leg.
Well, Jaden Hopp lives. He still had his spare car in hand. He has applied that. He has lost a lot of time, but he is back out on the circuit in 15th place, which is good to see. And the possibility has been raised by our director that Burns and Bowen could no-stop this race. You did mention fuel saving earlier on, Brad. That might very well be what Dwayne Burns and Shane Bowen have been doing all along, and that could be very interesting. The pit stop is not compulsory, but with the way the fuel burn is in these cars, it is likely that you would have to stop. But it seems that the former Avatar Auto Racing pair might be pulling a bit of a miracle here.
I mean, they're both up quite well over there. Oh no, that is John Byrne is just absolutely fenced it at turn 9. very hard into that outside wall, and that absolutely came out of nowhere.
Yeah, Jonathan Bean was trying to find his way past Robert Northway. This was back a lap ago, a lap before the incident when they negotiated that lapped car. But yeah, roughly the same location is where Jonathan Bean caught the grass on the outside of the circuit and went flying into the tyre barrier. You'll see it here. Whoop, there we go.
And he doesn't catch it by much, but it's just enough. If he was there like that far out, even 3 meters up the road, there's just that little thin strip of concrete that he would have caught, and he probably would have been fine. But yeah, that was so unfortunate. That's a surprisingly fast corner, so he's actually come off relatively unscathed, minus some not so particularly pretty body damage, but otherwise he's still pointing in the right direction and doesn't need to come in for his spare car. Oh, hold that thought.
Goodness. Yeah, I just saw that in the front of the frame. One of the MFR cars having a big old slide. Yeah, Bean letting by Thomas Hinz and Dwayne Burns. Burns still fighting for position here with Hinsey, who is on that newer set of tyres and has stopped for fuel. Considering that we still got 7 laps to go and Hinsey's pace seems far superior to Burns's, I reckon this is going to be a case of Hinsey getting the move done sooner rather than later. Has a little look down the front stretch, but it's not going to happen this time. Will he line it up into turn 2? Yeah, he commits to the inside and Burns turns in, but just at the last second opens the steering to give Hinsey a little bit of room. Burns is going to go defensive here. Oh no, he's going to get on the brakes just a little earlier and let Hinsey go. He is aware that Hinsey is on the fresher rubber. But Burns still in 3rd place, and considering it looks pretty much certain that he and Bowen are going to be no stopping this race, that is a fantastic rise through the field for that pair. Remember, Burns started in 9th and Bowen started in 8th.
Yeah, so they've gained 10 positions combined, which in a 18 car field even is a very, very good job. Of course, some drivers have had a lot of misfortune, Mark Newton and Jaden Hopp being the main 2 protagonists in that statement, but still a fantastic job for them to be still on the podium and in 5th position respectively is fantastic to see. And 5 laps to go. If they don't make it from here, then I think I'll be more surprised now than if they do make it, because...
Oh, no! Oh, okay, Dean. Goodness me. Big slide there in the 2nd turn. Sorry, Brad.
Oh, that's so good. That was off screen for me, so I'm glad we managed to catch that, because that was very sideways through turn 2. But these guys running to their fuel number have done an amazing job to get to where they are, is the TLDR of the statement I was trying to make.
Yeah, and, oh dear, oh dear, oh, careful, gently does it, Dean. Well, he's really struggling here in the later stages, isn't he? But still moving forward, we'll still be able to get to the finish from here. The number 17 of Mitchell Bales still out there as well, trying to chase down Sam Harper in the final stages. Our director pointing out that oh no, it's not going to be a no-stopper for Dwayne Burns. He's just come into the pits on lap 43. We were going to say that that if they did a no-stop, then it might change the entire strategy for race 2. Might open up the eyes of other drivers to the fact that, well, you can complete this race without a pit stop. Bowen is going to continue.
Yeah, Bowen has 4 laps to go, so it'll be interesting to see if he can make it. Dwayne Burns just falling short. He's going to need an absolute splash and dash for him to get him home for the next 4 laps, but even still, that's going to drop him way down the order
to 6.
Not even way down the order. That's still a really good result, up from 9th position. So 6/10 behind Sam Harper now, who is on quite old tyres. So this could be an interesting finish for these 2 drivers for 5th position.
could indeed. Sam Harper pitted 20 laps ago. And Burns, with that 7.1 second stop on fresh tyres. Well, maybe not tyres, actually. Might have just taken rears, not too sure. Bowen going to continue on in car number 7. And that was Jaden Hopp just making his way by him. Hopp's still down in 15th, but Shane on this really... Is he lifting off? He is mega fuel saving to try and get to the end.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Sam Harper and Dwayne Burns, the duo we were just talking about, 17.5 seconds behind. That's them now coming up towards turn 3. Shane Bowen is coming through turn 7 and turn 8 now. So that's the gap you see on screen now. And this is going to be really close. 2 laps to go. He should make it. If he can lift and coast the amount that he did into turn 1, which was almost a third of that straight. It'll be interesting to see if he comes into the pits now. He's very ginger on the throttle to try and minimize that fuel usage. We'll listen to him now with the lift and coast, because this is going to be absolutely telling. Yeah, that's huge lift into turn 1.
Oh yeah. Goodness me. Well, Shane Bowen may very well pull this off with 2 laps to go. It will be incredibly interesting to see. And Dwayne Burns still has a chance of getting by Sam Harper. He's still about 6/10 behind him, but remember those... remember that Burns might not have taken tyres in that pit stop. Might have just been a little splash for fuel. And we're hearing that Brett Loxton might be short on fuel as well. And have a look at that. Yeah, goodness. 1 minute 11 lap time that time around. What on earth is going on for Brett Loxton? The gap for back to Thomas Hinds is now down to 2.5 seconds.
Well, the problem is if Brett Loxton, who was one of our latest pitters, is short on fuel, then it's going to be interesting to see if Thomas Hinds is short on fuel as well, because his stop was even quicker. So that might be down to tyres, but gap is decreasing 1.6 seconds now. I think Loxton should be able to do it, but I think this is going to come down to who gets to the finish line first. I know that seems like a redundant statement, but well, who comes first, the finish line or Thomas Hinds, is going to be the real question.
Yes. All right. Well, oh my goodness. Yeah, Loxton is very slow, actually, through the dog leg. He's not going to be able to do this. He goes wide in the final corner. Thomas Hinds is going to jet by him here on the back stretch. On the front stretch, sorry. And it's a form finish, actually, for the Jinx Shifters crew. That is Loxton and Hinds finishing in the top 2 positions. Daniel Stevens holds on to 3rd. And Shane Bowen, amazingly, is going to complete this race without making a fuel stop. He had to do some mega fuel saving at the end, but fantastic run there for the number 7. He should be very happy with that performance. And it looks like Dwayne Burns, with no fresh tyres on that car, not able to make an impression on Sam Harper, who takes 5th.
That was a very interesting finish. What was looking to be like a pretty straightforward race, but I guess you don't count all your chickens until they hatch, because Shane Bowen, take a bow, because that was a very... He's out of fuel coming up towards turn 3 now, so he timed that pretty much to perfection.
He did indeed. Goodness me. Well, that ends it for the first race here at Oran Park in the Landown 240 International Region of the Majors Series, supporting Deaf Australia. Brett Loxton and Thomas Hinds, formation finish up at the front of the field for HJR. Daniel Stevens, Shane Bowen and Sam Harper will complete the top 5. Dwayne Burns had to make a late pit stop. He tried to go for that no-stop strategy that Bowen managed to pull off, but it didn't work out for him. Mitchell Bales and Josh Thomas, 7th and 8th. with Robert Northway down in 9th, not quite able to work his way back up from that 6th place start, and Gavin Barber will round out the top 10. 11th, Jonathan Ben, a lap down. Dean Moll also a lap down. And then we had the drivers who suffered big issues tonight. Craig Tilson, Max Riley, Jaden Hopp and Peter Jones all classified 2 laps down. Darren Robb 3 down. And our sole retirement from the race, Mark Newton. Michael Berta did not end up taking the start. All right, we got another race to go here. So we'll step aside and get ready for it, because my goodness, what a race we've got coming up. Race 2 of the Landown 240 coming up very shortly here on SimSpeed TV. You're watching SimSpeed TV. It's the international region of the Majors Series, the Landown 240, the V8s racing at Oran Park Raceway. We had a very interesting race just before, with one driver, that being Shane Bowen, making his way to the end of the race without taking a stop for fuel. Now, wondering if that's going to play a little bit forward into race 2. We'll see if anyone tries to attempt that, knowing that it is possible. So it'll be quite interesting to see. And we're going to get ready for the second race start here, with the grid being set by the finishing order of race 1. I'm Reese Gardner, it's Brad Wingard alongside me in the commentary box. Brad, we've got plenty of good stuff coming up here on SimSpeed TV, not just the Max Bants Open tonight, also supporting Food Bank Australia with help with the Queensland floods, but the next round of the Majors Series on the 13th of March is going to be the the Jimmy Bryan 200. Phoenix Raceway in the Lotus 79, emulating 1970s style IndyCar racing. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's not actually a car that I own or have driven on the service, which I know is blasphemy compared from what a lot of people have told me. But I'm very much looking forward to that. Very interesting combination. Wasn't really a fan of the old Phoenix compared to the new one that we got recently, but I'm sure the guys will put on a fantastic show as always, and it's going to be a good bit of fun. If Daytona oval racing was one thing with, you know, a lot of bump drafting and nice green flag running, open wheelers at a track like Phoenix is going to be a whole different ballgame.
That it is. And of course it is the legacy version of Phoenix Raceway, with the scan dating from 2008, before the track was modified in 2011. But we return to Oran Park for the time being. The lost classic of Australian motorsport, just outside Sydney in Narellan in New South Wales. And we've seen from the previous race, it is difficult to make a move. It's difficult to pull off a pass here. And if there are drivers that have dramas off the start, like we did see drivers bogging down off the race start in race 1, then they're going to have a tough time making their way back up through the field.
Yeah, they definitely will. And like you said, passing here is difficult. You can pass through turns, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if you're brave. But if you make a pass at turn 2 up the inside, you're on the outside for turn 3. And that's the biggest downfall, is you can make passes, but making those passes stick is a completely different thing. And from turn 7 onwards, it's pretty much single file the whole way through. So we saw some action in turn 1 and in race 1, and a relatively clean start last race. So hopefully we get cleaner again, but a lot of these guys might be a bit antsy to try and make up positions early in race 2, and I think that's going to be a lot of drivers undoing if they try that. So very interested to see how that plays out.
We shall see how it plays out momentarily. The grid is on for race 2 here. And the finishing order from race 1, it's going to be Brett Loxton and Thomas Hinz with an HJR Jinx Shifters 1-2 at the front of the field. Daniel Stevens starts in 3rd, but Shane Bowen, with that no-stop strategy in race 1, has elevated himself to a 4th place start. Sam Harper and Bowen's teammate Dwayne Burns will start on the row behind. 7th and 8th are going to be Mitchell Bales and Josh Thomas. Robert Northway, he's got to look for some improvement there. He started 6th in race 1 and unfortunately was stuck behind cars and involved in incidents. He'll be hoping for better this time. He starts alongside Gavin Barber. It's Jonathan Bain and Dean Moll who round out the top 12 positions. Meanwhile, it's Craig Tilson who starts lucky 13th alongside Max Riley, with Jaden Hopp looking to make improvements as well. A blown engine and not taking rear tyres at the pit stop put him way down the order. That's the rest of the field there. The revs are rising. We're getting ready for the start of race 2 here in the Landown 240, and we are go. And Thomas Hinz bogged down a little bit. Same for Brett Loxton. It's another lightning start from Daniel Stevens, but also from Shane Bowen and Sam Harper. Fantastic stuff there. Stevens cuts in front of Hins and protects second place. Sam Harper is going to try round the outside here, gets the power down and moves up into third. A fantastic run there from the driver that won the first 2 races of the season, but Hinsey getting back up the inside at turn 3. Sam Harper is going to give him room. Goodness me, it's another interesting start here. Robert Northway is struggling to find his way forward. He's right in the middle of the MFR pair of Gavin Barber and Jonathan Bain. Goodness me, they are having a tough time there in the middle of the field, but no surprise to see that it is Brett Loxton who is streaking away from the front of the field. In fact, it's exactly the same situation as in race 1 in the top 3. It's Loxton, Stevens and Hins. Now, when does Hins make the move on Stevens?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I just saw Robert Northway in that gaggle of MFR and Kinetic Avatar cars had a big moment through turn 6 over the bridge, but he's managed to gather it up, but has lost a lot of time to Jonathan Bain in front. And yeah, Hinsey and Dan Stevens have been at each other's throats so far this season. It's been really good to see how they've been working together, but Hinsey is going to want to make that 1-2 again with Black Loxton, but he's obviously going to want to try and flip it this time if he can, and the longer he's behind Stevens, the harder that is going to get. But Dan Stevens is not going to give up too easy. He's in prime position now, and all he's got to do is park his car on every apex for the next 44 laps and he'll be golden, but that's a hell of a lot easier said than done.
Well, Daniel Stevens, we were talking to him in between the race as he jumped in for a little bit of a chat behind the scenes, revealed to us that he was having some issues with his brake pedal, and during his pre-qualifying last night, his brake pedal rubber split. So now he's running with a softer strength rubber. That basically means that he's pressing the brake pedal a bit too hard. And that explains why we've seen the amount of lockups we've seen from Daniel Stevens. Here's a replay of Craig Tilson. Something's gone wrong for him in turns 1 and 2. And, oh dear, he's just gone way too deep. Got the front left locked. And just on live pictures, Thomas Hins making the move done on Daniel Stevens at turn 3. And there we go. Stevens just yields and allows Hins to continue on. So, from Daniel Stevens' perspective now, if he can stick with Hins the best he can, he will be able to consolidate another podium finish.
The podium finish with Brett Loxton and Thomas Hins leading away is definitely not a bad position to be. And Oran Park is such a mentally difficult circuit to lap around for such a long period of time because of how quickly the corners come at you. So even a top 5 result, Robert Northway is having an absolute nightmare of a race in race 2. He's down in 16th place at the moment after that spin through the turn 3-4 go-kart section, and is now trying to make his way through Peter Jones and gets that move done quite easily out of turn 12.
Well, Robert Northway once again on the back foot here and trying to work his way forward. It's a big shame there for the New Zealander. These were the cars that he was amongst. Mitchell Bales, Gavin Barber, Jonathan Bain, that MFR trio chasing down Shane Bowen, who's managed to hold on to a position in the top 6 after a very strong start. Dwayne Burns has made his way ahead of all of them, currently in 5th, chasing down Sam Harper, or at least trying to, because it looks like Sam Harper is gaining a little. But it's all going to be on Shane Bowen and Josh Thomas here to hold off the charge of the MFR machines. Very interesting racing here going on. It seems Kinetic Avatar and MFR are the two teams fighting the hardest against each other in this 2022 season.
Yeah, it's good to see. We're missing some of the teams we have seen in previous years. Texans Fitz-Dive being the biggest standout, I think, compared to previous seasons. But seeing the Kinetic Avatar and Middle Finger guys going at each other like they have been, and we're only 3 races in, is been really good to see. And it's a rivalry that I think is going to continue all year, because these guys don't seem to be showing any signs of throwing in a towel yet. And this is one of the reasons why we love Oran Park because you can see so much of the track from any one position, and I can only think of one track still running that does that, and that's Queensland Raceway, and that track is a hell of a lot less exciting than this one. But this battle for 6th down to 10th, 11th and 12th is not going to give up anytime soon, I don't think.
At least until the pit stop phase comes around, and if Burns and Bowen try that no stopper again, well, that could certainly cause a little bit of drama, consternation amongst other drivers. We'll have to wait and see what everyone decides to do, depending on whether or not they decided it was successful. I mean, Bowen managed to pull it off, but Burns had to go for that late pit stop when it looked like it wasn't going to work out. So maybe Burns is going to go for a more conventional strategy in this race. Maybe Bowen is going to try the no stopper again. We'll have to see. But for the time being, Bowen's not getting much help from anyone up ahead. No draft down the front stretch, and he's not exactly in a position to lift and coast fuel save either, because he's got that huge gaggle of cars behind him, led by his teammate in the Falcon.
Well, counter argument to that is that he might be lifting and coasting. I haven't checked any onboard footage, so I might just be, making myself look like a bit of a fool. But they all might be following suit. They saw him do it last race, and I mean, he's dropped 2 spots from the start, which isn't probably what he wanted, but it's also not the be-all and end-all. So if he's fuel saving, then the 4 cars behind him or more might be doing the exact same thing, and they're just following his lead. So this could be really interesting in 39 laps time when we take the checkered flag to see where these 5, 6, 7, 8 cars end up.
Yeah, Shane Bowen is fuel saving coming into turn 1. So the fact that he's able to keep these guys behind while doing that, a testament to how well he's got a handle on this car right now. Let's see then how things go, because Josh Thomas is starting to close in on him. I'm sure that he'll be aware that Bowen is attempting the fuel save, and if Thomas is not attempting a fuel saving strategy, then this could make things a little difficult. He might end up getting held up behind Bowen, which could bring those MFR cars back into the fight.
Yeah, and of course these guys will no doubt be in a call together at the moment, trying to sort this out. So Burns has absolutely taken off. He's nearly 2 seconds up the road, but he might still be on that strategy as well, whereas Bowen on the strategy, Thomas getting held up by it. The MFR cars probably don't know what's going on. They probably just think that Shane Bowen is slow and we should move out the way. But as one of them has a massive lockup, that was Mitchell Bales nearly hitting the back of Josh Thomas in the back of the picture. But yeah, this is going to be interesting to see if Thomas cues in on this, or if he decides, nah, get out the way, I want to go faster.
Well, as we check out this replay for Jonathan Bean, who goes a bit deep into turn 2, we did have that little bit of onboard footage from Josh Thomas, and he was saving a little into turn 1. So it seems that the kinetic avatar cars are all on the same page when it comes to the strategy. And Mitchell Bales here in the MFR number 17 might not be aware of that. Regardless, the gap is still big enough, as you can see, that it's not going to affect the battling too much if these 2 cars are fuel saving up ahead.
Yeah, ooh, big wiggle. That was Mitchell Bales again, really getting caught out by Josh Thomas's car just up ahead, and tries to go for the move. Big lockup again from Josh Thomas that time. Looking up the inside, it's very slightly sideways into turn 5. Mitchell Bales really wants to get past these cars as quickly as he can. About 4 laps ago, I think he wanted to get past them, if not more.
Oh, we got a replay coming up, thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School once again. Problem for Max Riley here at turn 9, getting into the wall. Did he catch the grass on the outside? Yes, he did. Bam! Huge hit to the wall, and that has given him the meatball flag, the mechanical black flag. which means the car is too damaged to continue on the circuit, and you have to come in for repairs within 3 laps. So, big shame there for Max Riley. He's already stopped in the box. Got another replay here of Jonathan Bean with a big lockup coming into turn 1. Oh my goodness gracious. And that's lost him the positions to Dean Mole and Jaden Hopp, now down to 12th, the 019.
Oh no, there's a monster shunt coming at turn 1. Maybe not. Peter Jones managed to keep it out of the wall. I just saw, I went back to Max Riley. He was coming out of the pits, and I saw Peter Jones coming up, and then I saw Peter Jones going into the gravel. But he managed to get that sideways to slowed the car down as quickly as he could, and thankfully managed to keep it out of the fence. And he's singing his prayers that there's as much runoff as there is at turn 2, because that was very quick.
Indeed it was. Had a teammate car coming out of the pits, might have distracted him a little bit. Just turning in a little too early for turn 1. Sets you up on a trajectory that will lock the inside front. And we're hearing that Max Riley, who had only just come out of the pits at that point, unfortunately was speeding on pit exit, so he's got a black flag to deal with now. Very unfortunate run for Max Riley.
Yeah, and Peter Jones had another incident. I think it was at turn 7 or 8. Yeah, coming out of turn 6, actually over the bridge, the rear end just got the better of him coming around turn 6. Didn't hit anything or anyone, which is good. Lots of runoff there, but that Dark Tempest Motorsport car is not having the best start to this race, and probably wants the next 35 laps to go as quickly as they possibly can.
Well, Max Riley serving the stop and hold for pit exit, and it seems he still has some damage on the front left too. That's a real shame there for the Dark Tempest driver. Well, the battling continues out on track. Running order at the moment, Brett Loxton, as you can see on the left, leading by 2.3 seconds from Thomas Hins. They have absolutely streaked away from Daniel Stevens, but he's on his own too. Sam Harper has a nice little gap in 4th place. We got Dwayne Burns just behind him, and Burns is in a nice little gap of his own. Then we have that fuel-saving duo of Shane Bowen and Josh Thomas. I think Dwayne Burns, considering the previous race, might be fuel-saving as well. And even if they can't make it to the end without making a stop, at the very least, they will spend a little bit less time putting fuel into the car. So, should be able to get their pit stop done much quicker.
I'm just going to have a little look on board with Mitchell Bales as they come around turn 12 now. Just want to see if he is going for a fuel save as well, because if he is, then this mid-pack is going to be very spicy coming towards the end of the race. No, he's not. He's getting on the brakes early, and less so than you would at normal racing speed, but not fuel saving. I haven't checked Gavin Barber yet, who's about a second off the back of this field, and he looks like he's running at normal race pace as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for the MFR cars versus the Kinetic Avatar cars, because two very different strategies by two very different teams is going to be very interesting in the next 20 laps or so, because we saw a majority of the field pit between about lap 18 and 30, so it'd be interesting to find out how they play out, if they'll go for an early stop for the undercut or if they're going to try and run it as long as they can.
Well, that battle is going to continue. I think it's just line astern running for the time being for this battle for 6th. The battle for 10th might start to spice up pretty soon though. Dean Mole, Jaden Hopp and Jonathan Bean all battling for this last position in the top 10. Jaden has done pretty well here to work his way up 4 places from where he started. He's had a nice clean race this time. But remember, he made that slight error in the pit stop of only taking front tyres in the previous races. Oh boy. That is the number 17 of Mitchell Bales trying to make his way past Josh Thomas. That little bit of side-by-side running has cost them because Gavin Barber is now up ahead. Shane Bowen is now up ahead of them by, I'd say about 1.2 seconds. Thomas manages to keep Bales behind, but that might have cost him.
Yeah, this is the replay now, thanks to VRS as always, and that's Mitchell Bales going up the inside of turn 3 and Josh Thomas managing to hold it round the outside of turn 4 and turn 5. Well, no, never mind. Bales makes a mistake into turn 4, which gives Thomas the inside of turn 5 and turn 6, which is why he came out on top. I was going to say that was very well done to keep that around the outside because very difficult to do, but Josh Thomas is having a bit of a struggle now keeping these two MFR cars behind him.
And just as we say that, Jonathan Bain has come into the pit lane, the first car to make a regular scheduled pit stop here on lap 15. So he's going to be going long in the second stint. Now let's see how long he stopped for. 13.2 seconds. That makes sense there. Taking fuel, taking all 4 tyres, and out he will come down in 14th. So we'll see how far up the order he can get to.
Yeah, he has Thomas Hinds 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds up the road from him. And Peter Jones is about 2.5 seconds behind him for position. Hinsey, of course, a lap up on Jonathan Bain. So a pretty good stop decision because his next car up the road to pass is Max Riley, who's a lap down. So plenty of clean air for him to work with. So if he can get those tyres working, this might be a really good strategy for him to leapfrog this pack that we've been watching.
Oh, Gavin Barber spins coming out of turn 2. Getting on the power a little bit too aggressively, it seems, or potentially catching the gravel on the exit of the turn. Let's see what happened to him. He was still in the fight with Thomas and Bales, a little bit wide through turn 2, and looks like the rears just spun up there on the exit. Remember, these cars have a locked differential, and you can't change the coast, the preload, or the power settings on the differential. It's just completely 100% of the power going to both wheels. So once you spin the car up, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, catching these things is doable, but it is so difficult to do, especially around a corner like that and in the nature of that spin. And that's really not going to be good for Mitchell Bales as he tries to attack Thomas now, because he's a lone ranger and Thomas is, for the most part, kind of on his own. Shane Bowen's 2.5 seconds up the road, so Bowen can come back, save a bit of extra fuel and make it a 2v1 if need be, but that swings the opposite way to what it was before, and now Bales has a much harder task of getting past that kinetic avatar car if he wants to get that position.
Speaking of kinetic avatar battles, Jaden Hopp was really rounding up Dean Moll in the first half of the lap, and Moll just a little bit off the circuit there, struggling to keep the thing straight. Jaden Hopp is keeping it nice and smooth by contrast, so we'll see if a position is made pretty soon here between the two Americans in this field. I'm wondering if Jaden Hopp spends enough time here behind Moll. Will he eventually decide to pit early and get into some clear air? Because it seems at the moment Jaden Hopp is the faster of the two. Took 0.3 out of Moll on the last lap.
And all you have to do really is look at qualifying. Jaden Hopp qualified 4th for round 1. Dean Moll qualified 14th. So that's a big difference in 1.3 seconds difference in qualifying between the two of them. So Jaden Hopp just unfortunately had an absolute nightmare race
Moll
1.
wide.
Yeah, Moll does run wide through turn 6, which is going to make Hopp's job even easier, but I think a good run out of turn 12 in toward turn 1 is definitely going to be Hop's best opportunity to make a nice, clean, easy pass, but it's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, and it seems to me that in that back half of the circuit, Hop's not quite using the full width of the track, so Mol is able to get that time back. Oh, here we go. Hop might have been listening to us on the broadcast, and he comes into the pits. Let's see how this works out then for Jaden. He's going to fall down the order, yes, but if he can avoid any of the mistakes and the misfortunes of the last race, then he should have a much better chance of getting a good finish here. I'm just monitoring his pit stop here, and he is up on all 4 jacks, so he is taking all 4 tyres this time. We're hearing that Mitchell Bales is having a couple of tech issues here, trying to chase down Josh Thomas and Shane Bowen. It can be very difficult when you're potentially having connection problems racing online, especially in cars like this where you know, they're very heavy, and any kind of move you can try to make, any drastic moves, will take a while to take effect with that amount of mass on the car. Hop's back out of the pits meanwhile, behind Jonathan Ben and Darren Robb. Ben, of course, another one of the cars that have already pitted so far in this race. He is on the 5th lap of his stint at the moment. Let's see what Hop can do versus Robb. It's a trio of single-syllable last names here for 12th, 13th, and 14th. It seems that Hop is going to have to wait for the final corner to try and make a move.
Yeah, it's so difficult when you're on fresh rubber. You can just see the speed difference. Hop having to get off the throttle there to not clean up Darren Robb out of turn 9, and a good run out of here will make it pass into turn 1 relatively easy. Fresh rubber as well. He's got a monster launch, and I think this is going to be clean pass into turn 1, but the run isn't there as much as I thought it would be, so ascend into turn 2 or patient for turn 3 is probably going to be best bet. But this is exactly what we said. Passing around here is so difficult to do because of the nature of the circuit.
Oh,
unless
well,
you do that.
Chance. Yeah, that might be the chance indeed. Darren Robb going a bit deep into turn 3, and there goes Jaden Hop up into 13th place. Bit compromised on the exit, but Robb's not able to get the over-under done. So there we go. The Boysenberry Motorsport car will start rushing off into the distance, and Robb will concentrate more on his own race once again. So that battle between Bowen, Thomas, and Bales is ongoing. It hasn't let up. The cars have spaced out a little more now, but it seems that Bowen has done some mega fuel saving because Josh Thomas has ended up gaining time on him in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Josh Thomas says, okay, I've tried it your way, now I want to try it my way, or if he is going to be complicit in this, because we have 24 and a bit laps to go in this race, so we're nearly half distance, which is almost prime time for someone to come in, and I think someone just did. Max Riley is in for his pit stop now, so near enough halfway. But if you're Shane Bowen, you've already mentally committed to this fuel save and physically committed to the fuel save as well, so there's no real compromise in that, whereas Josh Thomas, I think, is just being pulled along for the ride, and Mitchell Bales, having his technical issues a couple of laps ago, is in a really difficult spot, and Hinsey in for another early stop, which is very interesting to see. He's the highest person to pit so far, and Daniel Stevens follows suit, so very interesting call for second and third.
Max Riley has been at a stop in the pits for over 45 seconds now. I get the feeling that there are some further issues there. As goodness me, that's mixed things up in that battle a bit. The number 43 of Peter Jones carrying a big amount of damage. I think that might have been an issue in the second half of the lap. You saw that battle between between Bowen, Thomas and Bales, having to avoid him as Daniel Stevens exits the pits. I get the feeling that it is a retirement for Max Riley, by the way. He's been stopped in his box for about 1.5 minutes now, so might not be a good finish for him. There's what happened to Peter Jones, and going for the pit lane, everyone having to swerve to avoid him, but fortunately no contact being made. Oh, and looks like Robert Northway might have had no, actually, Northway's just come in for his stop. He comes out in 13th behind Ben and Hop, and Jaden Hop is really starting to turn the wick up now. Remember, he was one of the first cars to pit for a regular service, and he will try his best to get that done on Jonathan Bain. Meanwhile, Mitchell Bales coming into the pit lane.
This is where it gets really interesting when we talk about the Kinetic Avatar versus Middle Finger guys, about who's going to come out on top. Shane Bowen still leads Josh Thomas for 3rd and 4th on track at the moment, and with Mitchell Bales, who's behind them in the pits, it becomes a matter of who's picked winning strategy. Of course, might be for just minor positions, but they're still winning the battle, and Dwayne Burns is well up the road, so it'll be interesting to see if he goes for a long stint again, or if he decides on an alternate strategy that most people are running. But definitely have to start keeping an eye on Bowen, Thomas and Ailes over the next 7 or 8 laps, as the leader is in as well.
Yeah, Loxton just completing his stop there. Dwayne Burns moves through into the lead of the race. Shane Bowen into 2nd. Josh Thomas into 3rd. And oh, Hinsey up the inside of Loxton at turns 1 and 2. Loxton's going to try and get him back here on the exit of turn 2. Will Hinsey yield into turn 3? No, it's a battle between the teammates here for the race win. They nearly make contact. Oh, well, for the effective race lead at this point, they both come into the pits. Goodness me, they're just costing each other a lot of time here. This could give a free kick to the Kinetic Avatar guys who have been fuel saving all along. Hinsey completes the move on Loxton.
And that's, I've said it before, I'll say it again, that's why we love this racetrack. Side by side for 4 or 5 corners for the effective race lead, and there's not many other racetracks where you can do that like that in these cars, and that was so good. Just absolutely testament to both driver abilities. Loxton getting a massive wiggle out of turn 12, and now Hinsey is going to need to pass these guys as quickly as he can, because if he can put at least one of them between himself and Loxton for the next lap, it's going to make Loxton's life a lot easier, and he makes a late dive. Loxton follows. Now Thomas has the inside for turns 2 on Loxton. Hinsey is through. Now Thomas is, decided,
lift off
this
early.
is not my fight, I am not getting involved.
Yeah, I think still committing to that fuel-saving strategy there. But Hinsey had a 1 second shorter stop than Loxton, and also an extra lap on those fresher tyres. So that's worked out magnificently for car number 62. Who pressured Cameron Dance all the way to the end for the International Pro Drivers Championship last year. And this is a great run from him. This is familiar territory for the likes of Hins and Loxton. That's a lock-up for Shane Bowen in the final corner. And Loxton right on the bumper of Hins. Hinsey's going to have to be forced into a defensive line for turn 1. Are the teammates going to go side by side through this very difficult turn? Whoa, Hinsey's going to hold on to the inside versus Loxton, but Loxton is just slightly ahead. Can he pick up the throttle in time, get the inside for turn 3? Yes, he can. So, Brett Loxton back into the race lead. Nice little bit of battling here between the teammates, but again, we've got to remember, it's probably cost them a bit of time.
That's okay by me. I'm sure it's okay by anyone watching as well, because that was great to watch between the two of them. And Dwayne Burns just up the road, yet to pit, so I don't think that's too much of an issue for either of those guys, but a bit of flat traffic. Craig Tillian in between Dwayne Burns and Brett Loxton at the moment, so these guys, bit sketchy there. Forces Loxton around the outside of turn 12, but managed to get through unscathed and with just enough space to Hinsey behind to deter any attack. But that was a great couple of laps of racing.
That it was. Oh, and Loxton, a little bit of a lock-up on the way into turn 2. That almost brings Hinsey back into contention, but seems that the gap is big enough between the cars that Hinsey's going to have to really hit all of his marks if he wants to try and get this effective race lead back. Meanwhile, another taker on the pits. It's Gavin Barber in the MFR number 25, pitting from 9th place. And Daniel Stevens and Sam Harper already well past him at that point. Bales is going to get him, so looks like Barber might just come out in and around where Jonathan Bain is. Pit stop completed, a 10-second stop for Gavin Barber, and he'll come out just behind Jonathan Bain, the last car on the lead lap as things stand.
So I've just decided to flick back to Dan Stevens, our 3rd place starter, currently running in 7th. He is about 9 seconds behind Josh Thomas and Shane Bowen. Of course, neither of those cars have stopped, but Dan Stevens has. Dean Mole and Peter Jones and Craig Tilson separate them. So lap times, it's about 1.5 seconds a lap difference between Stevens and Thomas at the moment. So it's going to be interesting to see if that's enough to bridge that gap towards the end of the race, or if that no stop is really going to put them in a solid position, because they run 4th and 5th at the moment. Of course, Burns, Loxton and Hins in front, so very interesting to see if Stevens can close this gap before the end of the race.
Yeah, look at those times there. Look at the amount that he's taken out of Dean Mole up ahead. That's fantastic pace there from the number 3. Right behind him now too. So every chance that a move might be made on this lap, unless Mole decides to pit. He doesn't this time round. And it's almost 3 wide for the lead meanwhile. Goodness me, they're all together. Dwayne Burns lifts off early and lets Loxton and Hins go. But that got kind of dramatic out of turn 2.
Yeah, I think Burns running a similar strategy. We'll get the replay of it now. This is coming through turn 2. Burns just goes a little bit wide, opens the door. Loxton decides to shut the door on Hinsey quite abruptly, which is probably a smart idea for him to do for his race, but thankfully Burns decides this is definitely not my race and I want nothing to do with it either. I'm just going to get out the road and let these guys through, and that's what gets you points. And he's sitting 3rd at the moment, which is very good position after starting 6th. So if Bowen, Thomas and Mole can hold Stevens off long enough, then that might just get him a podium.
Might just. Let's see what goes on. Here is Daniel Stevens once again on the back of Dean Mole. Mole's up 6 places from where he started. Of course, that's due to pit stops being made, and it looks like Mole letting Stevens go on the front straight, recognizing once again it's not quite his fight, so he'll just let Stevens continue in his pursuit of the effective top 2, which is now the literal top 2 of Loxton and Hins.
I was just watching Dan Stevens again, and I saw a car go sideways and backwards into turn 2. Peter Jones is absolutely hating that corner at the moment because he's had a spin again through turns 1 and 2. Thankfully no one involved, and he gets out of Sam Harper's way coming into turn 4 and 5. But that was a very quick spin and almost mimicked his incident a couple of laps ago.
Oh, yep, that's what happened. Catching the gravel coming out of turn 1. You're on the brakes, you're trying desperately to slow down for turn 2. But if your trajectory puts you into the gravel, then those brakes are going to be absolutely useless. Well then, Thomas Hinz versus Brett Loxton. Hinsey on slightly older tyres by 2 laps. Does he have it in him to try and fight his teammate for the win here?
I don't know. I think Loxton on Barcelona, although his qualifying time wasn't, overly extravagant. I mean, he started second,
Whoa.
so it's not slow. What's whoa?
There's a car off in the gravel. It's Jonathan Ben at that corner. I just saw a flash of him when we were watching Hinsey. He manages to get going, but it looks like that is an incident that has been seen quite a few times before in this race. Just catching the grass on the entry into this left-hand sweeper and a big hit to the wall. We'll see if there's a... Actually, it looks like no meatball for him, so he's fine, but he did take quite some time to get it going, and it seems the damage is heavy enough that he's decided to get it repaired. Not quite enough damage for a mechanical black flag, but still, that car would not be fun to drive.
No, it definitely wouldn't. And worst thing about that is you said it's not the first time we've seen it happen. The first time was Jonathan Bain last lap as well, last race as well. So not his favourite corner for sure. 2 incidences, nearly at the exact same time in both races. So very unfortunate for him. He comes out of the pits in 13th place. He's kind of a little bit in no man's land at the moment. 12th place is Gavin Barber coming up towards the start finish line now, and 14th place is Darren Robb, who's just past the start line as well. So bit of no man's land for him now, but people not in no man's land are, again, Brett Loxton and Thomas Hinz.
Well, the drivers who have used their spare car, Robert Northwaite, Jonathan Bean, as you just saw, Darren Robb, Peter Jones, Craig Tilson, and Max Riley, who is still in the pits. I think it's a confirmed retirement for Max Riley there. But everyone, apart from those drivers I've just mentioned, still have a spare car in their back pocket.
Which, coming to 13 laps to go, you don't really want to use, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Dan Stevens is now right on the tail end of Josh Thomas, but catching and passing are 2 very different things. But yeah, having the spare car at this point in the race is very, very crucial, because that can be a massive point swing, having it and not having it. And not that you want to use it late in a race either, but just being able to carry that to the end of the race is so important. And we've seen so many minor mistakes cause big issues around here in these races tonight, so that's so important. And that gap is now well under a second heading into turn 1, and I don't think Josh Thomas and Shane Bowen really stand much of a chance against the charging Dan Stevens at the moment.
Yeah, well, remember, Bowen and Thomas are 2 of the kinetic cars that are fuel-saving. Stevens has a look up the inside of Thomas, who goes wide, and he's going to hold on to the position, but is he going to let Stevens by? Yes, he is. Okay, so the kinetic avatar quartet, I should say, Dean Moll in car 31, who we saw Daniel Stevens pass a little earlier, is also, it seems, going for that no-stop strategy. So it's been pretty good here by the kinetic avatar cars to try and work their way up and get that track position from not pitting. But of course, they have to be quite ginger on the throttle pedal as a result. There's the view from Daniel Stevens looking ahead to Shane Bowen. You see the gap just continue to chip away, getting under 1.5 seconds as they make their way towards turn 1. And there's only 11 laps remaining for these guys. Not much time for Daniel Stevens to get up there. He'll likely be able to get Bowen before the end of the race, but will he be able to get Dwayne Burns? It's quite the gap between them, to the tune of about 6 seconds.
Yeah, it's going to be very close, and you're talking about how the strategy is working well for the kinetic avatar cars. As a team, over this whole race, this whole round as it stands, they've gained 18 positions from their culminative starting grid at the end of qualifying to where they are now. So that's a huge increase in positions across the 4 cars. That's 4.5 spots each, as we see Dan Stevens making a very easy move through turn 12 on Shane Bowen. But that just shows how well it's working for them to just gain 4.5 spots just on a little bit of fuel saving around a very short racetrack is very good, very alternate, and I like it.
We've had a report from the Dark Tempest team. Apparently, the pit wall on entry, net coding the 65, so a little bit of a latency issue there for Max Riley. But I've just taken a look at his last pit entry, and it doesn't look like he touched the pit wall at all. Maybe it was a little bit of ghost contact causing that huge repair for Max Riley. We'll have to look into that a little further later, or maybe more information will be provided in due stead. But either way, it's a very unfortunate end to Max Riley's night, having his fair share of issues here at Oran Park. But fortunately, the drivers who had a tough time here will be able to move on very shortly and start prepping for driving the Lotus 79 around an oval. There's a little bit of puff of smoke up ahead of Daniel Stevens. That's not the car that he is pursuing necessarily. The car in front of Stevens there is Darren Robb, who's running down in 14th and runs a bit wide in turn 3, letting Stevens go once again. Stevens still on an absolute charge and trying his best to round up Dwayne Burns here. It's about 4.6 seconds now, the gap between Burns and Stevens. So will he be able to make that up in 9 laps?
You would think so. Last lap times was about 0.8 of a second quicker, so 4 seconds in 8 laps at 0.8 of a second is very much doable, but it also might be that Dwayne Burns is saving extra fuel to mean he can push it in the event that he needs to defend that position. So it's not as easy as, okay, 3.8 seconds as we see on screen now with 8 seconds to go. That's easy. It's going to be interesting to see how much Burns is saving and if it's more than he actually needs to.
Sam Harper, meanwhile, has just made his way past Dean Moll for 7th. Looks like that happened on the front straight. Dean Moll lifted off and let Sam Harper go. So still committing to the fuel save is Dean Moll, but Sam Harper now back up into the top 7. And throughout the pit cycle, he did lose out a bit, but still on his way to another top 10 finish here. Good stuff there for Sam Harper, keeping it nice and clean and trying to hold on as best he can to that championship lead. Remember, Sam Harper winning the first 2 rounds, Watkins Glen in the GT class, and the Daytona 500 as well, going to him with a crash on the final lap. So there's Dwayne Burns at the front of the in the foreground, at least it was. Stevens trying his best to make up that time, and it's still looking good for him. He's continuing to take out big chunks of time to the tune of about a second every single lap. It's amazing that kind of pace that Stevens has on the fresher tyres. But regardless, Dwayne Burns, the fact that he's been able to keep it as clean as he has, stay out of trouble, which, as we've mentioned, is the main course of action at Oran Park in the V8, he's just vaulted himself up through the field from 9th to 6th in race 1, from 6th to 3rd at the moment in race 2. Might be 4th if Stevens can catch up to and pass him, which it seems he might be able to, but still, that's something that I think Dwayne Burns should be very proud of, being able to complete these races on no stoppers and hold on to those really good positions.
Yeah, absolutely. Because these guys aren't taking they're not taking a tiny splash and dash, but they're not taking like huge amounts of fuel either. So it's that really awkward middle ground of if you pit for that fuel or not, and saving that 40-second lane time with the stop is working really well for all of the kinetic avatar cars, and Dwayne Burns in particular. And it's been a relatively quiet and boring race for him, but that's not necessarily a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. Like, got involved with the leaders at one point, which spiced it up for him just for a 3 corners or so, but other than that, he's just driven a really well-controlled race and is in a really good position at the moment. And yeah, it looks like he's going to get passed by Stevens, but 9th to 4th in 2 races, when you're racing against Loxton, Hinz and Stevens, is a really, really good result.
That it is. We're under 5 to go now. The night is quickly coming to a close here in the international region of the Majors Series, and Stevens is now within striking distance of Dwayne Burns. This is going to be interesting to see if Burns fights this and how hard, because Stevens has had it pretty easy with the other kinetic avatar cars. They've let him go on the straights and in various places around the track. Burns, maybe not. He's got a podium on his hands here.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how rigid the defense is, and I'm trying to make this the last time that I'll say this for this weekend, but we know how difficult it is to pass around here, and that might work in Burns' favour with 4 laps to go. And if he can hold it down the straights into turn 3, if Dan Stevens get very sideways out of turn 12, if he can defend through to turn 3, then I think he's pretty set for the rest of the lap. Dan Stevens looks inside, just trying to psych him out, and looks inside again, and Dwayne Burns leaving more room than he really needs to, and still running side by side into turn 3, but ultimately concedes. And I think that could have been on for a fight for position, but Dwayne Burns just trying to consolidate a nice strong finish in 4th, and there's nothing wrong with that at the same time.
Nothing wrong indeed. Burns has a great gap back to his teammate Shane Bowen, about 7 seconds, so he can certainly afford to just plug away for the final 3 laps. Meanwhile, Sam Harper, oh goodness me, trying his best there to make his way past Josh Thomas, and ends up doing it. Fantastic move there from the championship leader, but Thomas vaulting it into the corner. Well, that's what's going to happen. You end up losing a bit of momentum on the exit. Sam Harper is making some good charges here at the back end of this race. I don't think he's going to have enough time to get up to the back of Shane Bowen, though. You see that gap there, 8.8 seconds. Unless Bowen makes a mistake and has a spin, I think that's going to be the last position Sam Harper gains tonight.
Even then, that's a pretty good result. 10th to 6th in 2 races is very strong indeed. Only gaining 1 in this race, but again, nothing wrong with that. It was that first race that really put him in that good position, and he's driven quite well through the rest of the field, and his car looks good as well, which helps. But a 6th position is something I would definitely take. I thought Thomas had actually pitted because he dropped so far behind Shane Bowen, but his tyres are just screaming in agony, trying to please let me go, finish this race, I'm done. And I think all 3 of those kinetic avatar cars, 4 of those kinetic avatar cars, sorry, are all screaming the same tune. But 2 laps to go, they're nearly there, they're nearly done, and I'm sure they'll be very happy when they are.
Thomas Hinz in 2nd was the fastest car on track last time by. He still keeps the gap to Brett Loxton at about 1.3 seconds. I don't think there's going to be enough time for these two to really come together on track again, but considering their 1-2 finish in the previous race, they should not be unhappy at all with this result. Brett Loxton is going to come around to get the white flag here. and Thomas Hinz will hold station in second place. It's been nothing short of a dominant performance from the Henry James Racing Jinx Shifters machines, and they should be very proud of what they've done here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the front row in qualifying in both races is not an easy feat, but they've absolutely shown why Hinsey got second in majors last year, and it's looking like this could be his year to win it if he can get some good results behind him. And Brett Loxton has absolutely dominated both races from start to finish, and we might see another form finish here, or Brett Loxton might think, nah, I'm going to run away, and I think he is slowing down now. But absolutely class drive by both of them. And yeah, I said that HRT inspired livery might help, and it sure did. So class finish by both drivers.
Indeed, there we go. The formation finish for the second race in a row. Brett Loxton and Thomas Hinz taking first and second at the Landown 240. Brilliant stuff from them. Daniel Stevens is going to come home to finish third once again. Fantastic drive from the number 3. Wasn't quite able to keep up with Brett Loxton and Thomas Hinz, but still able to work his way through. The driver behind Stevens, though, Dwayne Burns, what a magnificent drive from him, going completely fuel stop free in both races, and he will finish 4th at the end of the night. Shane Bowen takes 5th, Sam Harper in 6th, and there's Josh Thomas, sportsman champion from last season, making his way across the line for 7th. Fantastic stuff from him. There goes Dean Mole as well, also not going for the pits. Very interesting strategy calls there from the Kinetic Avatar team. And the last driver to come across the line, Robert Northway. That's certainly a night to forget, I think, for the number 446. But Brett Loxton will have a night to remember here. Double win, complete domination in both races. It did get a little spicy earlier with Dwayne Burns, but coming home with that 1-2 finish for HJR, certainly lifting their spirits when it comes to the international division of the Majors Series. Let's go through the unofficial results here as they line up for some victory donuts here on the skid pad. And these donuts will taste especially sweet for Brett Loxton and Thomas Hinz, who finished first and second in this race, with Daniel Stevens completing the podium 22 seconds behind them. Dwayne Burns comes home in 4th, and then it's Bowen, Harper, Thomas, Moll, Bales and Northway to round out the top 10. First car just about a lap down. First car a lap down for sure is Jaden Hopp, who did have an improved drive here in the second race tonight. He should be happy with that. Gavin Barber and Jonathan Bain finishing 12th and 13th. Then it's Darren Robb, also 2 laps down. Peter Jones 3 down. Craig Tilson 4 laps down. And our 2 retirements, Max Riley and Mark Newton, both with heavy repairs to be done. Michael Berta did not take the start in either race. Well, we are going to have to wait a little bit here for our podium finishers to jump on into the interview box, but I got to say, Australian V8s at an Australian circuit, it's no surprise to see the Australians up on top. But what will the case be next round at the Jimmy Bryan 200? It will be interesting to see how things work out here, Brad. Open wheels, especially a 70s open wheeler, racing at an oval. The ground effect of the Lotus 79 will be in play there. It's going to be a different style of driving, and we could see some different drivers on top.
Yeah, absolutely. And Phoenix has the dogleg variant that can be run, but that pit straight in the middle of the circuit is so narrow, especially compared to Daytona that we were last round. So I think that could catch a lot of people out. And these cars, although I haven't driven them, I know are exceptionally quick. So a lot of close quarters action and very fast racing, so it's going to be an absolute blast to watch. And like you said, very different style of racing for sure.
For sure, indeed. We do have two of our podium finishers in the pits. Let's go in reverse order. 3, 2, 1. We'll start with the number 3, Daniel Stevens. Well, Dan, great results for you tonight. Double third place. You must be happy.
Oh yeah, I'm over the moon. Eh? It's not bad when you're racing against Hinsey and Loxton. Those guys are just on another level again. But to get 2/3 in front of the Avatar boys, I'm happy with that.
It wasn't entirely plain sailing, though. You did have issues with your brake rubber splitting during pre-qual. You had to run a softer spring for this one, which made it a bit difficult to slow down. Yeah,
it was a bit of a pain, but I think by the time I got into about 15 laps into the second race, I seemingly got used to it, but I won't do that again.
Well, either way, with that double third, it definitely helps you out in the championship standings. And next round, we go to an oval once again, Lotus 79 at Legacy Phoenix. Have you thought much about that round? What do you think of the combo?
It's an interesting combo. Me, I like my ovals, and I do pretty well at the old ovals, but in a 79, that's a different story again. So we'll see how it goes, eh?
Definitely will. Before we let you go, Dan, is there anyone you'd like to thank from your garage?
Yeah, just the boys at Middle Finger Racing, Mad As Designs, Aussie Signs and Designs, WP Concrete Team, and Snap-on Tools. And you guys for putting the broadcast on, which is every time. It's guys do a great job. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us, Daniel Stevens, for Middle Finger Racing. Next up, we do have Thomas Hins in the pit box, stood by with Bradley Wingard. An excellent run for him.
Yeah, it absolutely was, Reese. Tom, welcome to the commentary box. You're no stranger to this place, so welcome back, I guess.
Yeah,
very different tone of the tide compared to previous rounds. And first point I wanted to make was the race starts were not your strong suit tonight. Was it just the car, or just couldn't quite get the bite point hooked up?
Probably because I didn't really do any practice starts before it, and I only really realised as I lined up, I was like, I didn't do any practice starts for this, and I haven't started these old cars for many years, probably literally. So yeah, that's probably what it was. But also, because I just do it off the clutch, so I don't actually do the whole handbrake bite point thing. So that's why my starts, especially in supercars, have always been a bit up and down. So made it interesting, I guess. I had to lob through a bit, it was obviously I got to battle better than the second one, which is great. Obviously, being partners usually in V8s, we know we can race each other to death, and we usually won't kill each other. So yeah, it was awesome getting to battle him. Brett's won't be able to jump in. He's had to dash back off the AHU to do race control. I'm actually just getting back in there too to jump back in soon in our car there. But anyway, but no, he drove beautifully. But Brett's like he's just a gun in the supercars, and it was good to get a fight with him in the second race. That was a lot of fun. So I'm glad that we're able to have a bit of a duel there in the second one.
That was going to be my next point, but you stole it from me anyway, so I have to think of something on the fly. But that pit exit was just insane. You were coming down pit straight. Brett Loxton was coming out. And then, of course, I think it was I forgot who it was in front of you now, but one of the kinetic avatar cars really spiced that up for you guys in the first couple of laps after your pit stops.
Yeah. Well, I as I said to Brett, because we're obviously in the voice chat at the time during that one, and as I said to him, as the great Mark Scaife would say, I thought I'd employ some gamesmanship in the second race and try and pip him on the fresh tyres, and actually worked. And I saw him there, and I was like, I have to get in front of him. Mostly, I just wanted to have a fight. I was like, I need to have a fight with him. I can't just let him have it. So I bombed in there, but he's super hot. And thankfully, because it's Brett, and he's very well aware of how things go with racing. He saw me coming in, and we were able to do a bit of side by side, and tried to hold him, but the kinetics definitely made it interesting. And then he got through and kept him honest, but he just had the edge on pace. But that's it was just great fun. So, and good to go 1-2 as well for HGR as well. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was good to see as well. You guys both put on a fantastic show. Next round we go to the old Phoenix in the old Lotus 79. Do you have any precursor knowledge to that, or are you kind of haven't touched it yet and are going to be pleasantly or unpleasantly surprised in a couple of days?
Probably the latter, and by a couple of days, it's probably a couple of weeks or whenever, like the week before, I'll probably get around to actually jumping in. I have driven the 49s before, ages ago, once or twice. I just had to go at them out of curiosity, but that was on road courses, so yeah, I have no idea. So yeah, I think Brett might be giving that one a miss because he was like, yeah, no, I can't be bothered with that. I was like, that's fair. I think there was something else on that weekend anyway. I think Sculpts or something. So he was like, yeah, I prefer to focus on that. And I was like, that's totally fair enough. I'm still going to do it because I'm crazy. And yeah, we'll see. I'll be happy to finish, frankly, because that's probably going to be deadly, I imagine. So yeah, I'll just try to finish that one, get some points, I think.
Every point counts, and coming back through the championship with Sam Harper leading the way, all those little ones will count in the end. And before we let you go and you know, focus on your other commitments for the night, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, just obviously the sponsors on the car, Jing Shifters, of course, the major one, and Fifth Gear Motoring, you know, all the other sponsors on the car. Really big thanks to them, and just for the team, big thanks to them for supporting us in all we do. Big thanks to Brett for the setup and just the great race, and big congrats to Brett for the double win. Deserves way more wins than he gets. He works so hard, so it's great to see him get 2 wins. I think that's the most deserved I've seen. He really deserves more with how hard he works, so it was really good to see. And yeah, big thanks to Majors for, as always, putting on a great show, great series, and big thanks to you guys for the broadcast as always. So yeah, I'll see you next time.
Awesome. We look forward to it, and we will see you at Phoenix in a few weeks' time.
Thank you very much.
That was Thomas Hins there, and we do apologise for the ever so slight F-bomb there. But we will move on then to wrapping this broadcast up, Brad. Really fantastic night of racing. You know, Aussie V8s always turn it up no matter what track you go to. I'm really looking forward to the Jimmy Bryan 200 on the 3rd of April, I believe it's going to be run. Yes, indeed, April the 3rd, which will be April the 2nd in the international region. But if you're still interested in watching some racing, and I'm putting racing in inverted quotes here on SimSpeed TV, in just about 40 minutes time, we've got the Max Bantz Open getting broadcast here on SimSpeed TV on YouTube and on the Traction Twitch channel at twitch.tv/TractionGG. We hope that you will join us for that. It's Bantz, you're it. A big old game of tag in NASCAR machines at Tsukuba 1000. But for now, we will say our goodbyes to the international region of the Majors Series. I'm Reese Gardner. It was Brad Wingard alongside me in the commentary box and Jay Kennedy on production. One more time, this round supports the Deaf Australia organisation, representing deaf and hard of hearing people in Australia and advocating on their behalf. Make sure to go to deafaustralia.org.au to lend your support. We'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get involved!
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?